Emma, welcome back to Global Payfest 25. For those of you who have been with us for a while, we're now in Spain. And for those of you just tuning in, I'm Natalie Lloyd, Customer Success Manager at JGA Recruitment, and I'll be your host for our Spanish session. So far we've covered superannuation in Australia, bonus structures in Japan, tax-free complexities in the United Arab Emirates, canton variations in Switzerland, RTI in the UK, social charges in France, and many other payroll complexities across several different regions. Now we're here in Spain. We're looking at a payroll system that combines EU labour standards with unique national frameworks. With mandatory payslip formatting, sector-specific agreements, complex severance rules, and high social contributions, Spain demands both accuracy and local expertise. I'm joined by Emma Cervera, who is a Spanish payroll expert. She's got 15 years of experience managing Spanish payrolls, so she is in the perfect position to walk us through the intricacies encountered by payroll professionals within this region. Emma is currently the Spanish payroll expert at Hightekers. They're an EOR who deliver workforce and employment management solutions for businesses and individuals in over 100 countries. Hightekers enable businesses to manage highly skilled workers, flexible workforces, and freelancers, as well as offering solutions for expats and professionals without a company. Emma, within Hightekers, is a respected payroll leader. She's got deep experience in overseeing multi-country payroll strategies, particularly in Spain, where compliance and cultural awareness go hand in hand. So, Emma, thank you so much for joining us today. Can we start by you telling us a little bit about your background and your experience in Spanish payroll?
Hi, everyone, and thank you for having me at this Global Payroll Festival. Over the course of my career, I have specialized in helping international companies navigate the often complex Spanish legal structures and bureaucracy, of course. My approach has been based into dual focus, providing advice and delivering hands-on solutions that optimize each phase of the payroll cycle, whereas ensuring compliance in all pertinent regulations. Currently, at Hightekers, I managing payroll in-house, and I also collaborating with different departments to find out solutions and contribute to the formulation of the strategies and objective of the company.
Amazing, thank
Basically.
you. So today, similar to the other sessions that we've covered so far, we're going to cover 3 different sections. So we'll look at the Spanish payroll framework, any sort of recent legal updates, any compliance considerations. Then we'll take you through a case study and we will finish off with some questions. So Emma, let's kick off the session with your expert overview on Spanish payroll.
Okay, well, expert, not sure, but I'll do my best. So the legal framework for Spain is made up of 3 fundamental laws: labor law, and social security regulations, and thirdly, the tax system. It's taking its one on term, the relevant labor law provisions are made in statutory employment law, el Estatuto de los Trabajadores, which describes the rights and obligations of both employers and employees, along with the collective bargain agreement system. This system includes sector-specific or company-specific provisions, as well as flexibility to take account other aspects such as regional or provincial requirements. So in overall, it's quite complex. The statutory employment law establishes the minimum rights for workers such as wages, hours, time, paid leave, unpaid leave, conditions, and describes the termination procedures, with having even 3 different types of dismissals. The collective agreement guarantees these minimum rights and also develops them to adapt the specific region, population, or industry. On top of this, we also need to talk about the social security regulations because it covers pensions, unemployment, paid leave, disability leave, and further. it is based on contributions from employer and from employee. Employers and employees must possess an identification. In case of employers, it's the contribution account code, and employers must proceed with payments throughout our remittance systems based on monthly payments. And they are paid on the last day, the last working day of the month after the wages are paid. On the other hand, the employees receive a unique identification, which is the Social Security number. All the employees must be registered before start working in for the company. Proceeding backwards is not legally possible, so it's so important. For the purposes of payroll, it is necessary to define the respective contributions of the employers and the employees. In this regard, their contributions are organized in different groups of categories, which are assigned with a minimum and a maximum base. The minimum base for this year is the SMI, which translates, it means minimum wage interprofessional, which is similar to the national living wage in the UK system. And the maximum base is determined by the government in its annual budget. For this year, the minimum amount is 16.576 minimum, and the maximum is 58,914 year annually. I mentioned the amounts in annually. And once the employee salary banded and the category is established, we can go to the Social Security coverage, which the Social Security law referred as contingencies. It's a bit awkward, but it's how they mention it. So the first group of contingencies, the general contingencies, are important, the main important in the total overall, and it covers common illnesses and not work-related accidents, maternities and paternity leave, permanent disability, retirement, and death. Employer contribution is fixed at 23.6%, and the employee contribution is 4.7%. Along with these general contingencies, and for the purpose of ensuring the sustainability of the retirement pensions, in 2023, the government introduced a further contribution, which is named is Intergenerational Equity Mechanism. The acronym is MEI, MEI. And this is a progressive contribution rising from 0.6 in 2023 up to 1.2 in 2029. That covers a period of 10 years. Why? Because the purpose is to take account the demographic pyramid effect in which the active population must sustain a growing proportion of retired people. So there is a generation in Spain in which we have elder people and less birth. So that it is the main purpose. And additional to this campaign, this year we have a new contribution named the Solidarity Contribution. This contribution tax the higher earners. This is also progressive taxation and complement the general contingencies. Came into force this year, so this is pretty new, and it's even much more complicated and challenging. Why? Because the threshold is divided into 3 different groups or bands. And for each band in which the salary is higher than the top contributions, has to be applied further percentage. Okay, so well, that's the block for the general contingencies. Now I want to have some talk about the unemployment benefit. That is the second mainly contingency of Spain, which contribution rate is 5.5 for the employer side in case of permanent contracts and 6.7 for temporary contracts. Here, the relevant point is that the contributions for the employee is very little, is 1.50, 1.55, and 1.6 if temporary. And it reflects the higher risk involved in being unemployed in Spain, because our unemployment has been for far away very high. And there are more contingencies in our system, but I'm not going to explain them all because in the average, I more or less cover it, that it represents a 3% of the total. So, and they are, I will mention them, they are the for training and bankruptcy, and also occupational accidents and sickness, which it depends on the activity of the company, will be taxed at 1.5, 3. It depends on the risks involved, if the industry is higher or not. So to sum up, the total amount to pay for the Social Security, as I explained, reached almost 40%, which is incredibly high. And from this, the 33 is covered by the employer, and the rest is for the employee. So now let's move to talk about the taxation system, which is a lot of fun. Taxation. Who pays the IRPF, the acronym for withholding tax over the individual? It pays residents of Spain, but also non-residents. Tax agency consider residents in Spain those who spend more than 183 days a year in the country. This is applicable for other countries also in Europe. And non-residents is for the employees that don't reach that amount of days in the country for the year. In that case, if the employee resides in the European Union, the tax rate will be always the same, 19%. Whereas if they are abroad, it is 24%. When it comes to the resident taxation, all the money earned from incomes are taxable. These include things like regular salary, but also extra payments, also bonuses and commissions, rewards, overtimes, any other kind of gratification that you get from your job is taxable. This is also a main unique thing because other jurisdictions or other countries has exceptions about this. So there are only a few things that are exempt, but I explained in the last term, okay? So the income tax rate in Spain is progressive. The high earners pay greater percentage. The starting paying begins in the 14,000 euros a year and ranges from 1 up to 47 for incomes exceeding the 300,000 euros a year. The specific tax rate applies, depends on the individual circumstances also. If there are any earnings, such a bonus received after the initial calculation in January, which is our first month, or an individual person change the status, a new child is born or get a disability, it is mandatory to have a new assessment. Okay, this reassessment will determine an update of the percentage, which likely be increased as per two factors. The total earnings has changed of the years and the remaining period has decreased. Okay. Employers in Spain also are obliged to withhold the income tax by month and remit it to the tax agency. The frequency of remittance depends on the company side. It will be monthly for large companies and quarterly for small and medium-sized enterprise. Additionally, employers must submit an annual income tax report according to the residence or non-residence tax regime, following the closing fiscal year and providing the employees with a tax certificate. Unlike other countries, in Spain, employees are required to file their own annual tax returns. Now, let's revise the wall of the exemptions. we must consider in payroll, of course. We will go firstly through those work-related exemptions, and then I will follow the company shares and finalizing with the 7P exemption and tax Beckham law benefit. Amounts exempt due to work. We found the per diems and travel expenses. Tax agency determine the amounts that will be exempt. For made in traveling inside Spain, 91.35 a day abroad. Hotels accommodations, fully exempt, as well as tickets, flights, bus, taxis, mileage, it's also considered. Very important, all the travel expenses must be documented and recorded for at least a period of 4 years. Tax agency might request it. Then we have transport cards, health insurance, vouchers, meals. Those are normally put into the flexible plan. So you have a salary, and by salary sacrifice, you receive less. So what are the amounts? In transport, it is yearly amount of 1,500. In the case of the health insurance, it is based in 500 per individual. It can be extended to the spouse or husband, but never the partner. It's really needed to be married. Meal vouchers are based on 11 euros per day, and children vouchers are fully exempt until the baby is 3 years old. Another group of work-related exemptions are the severance payments. Severance payments can be exempt if they met the requirements of the objective dismissal described in our law, in our workers' status law, Article 52. The amount is based on 20 days per year work, up to 12 monthly payments. The other severance payment is in case it's deemed unfair. This is specific case because in payroll, we always request to receive the certificate from the labor court named SMAC, that is a specialized court for labor to negotiate unfair dismissals and to be validated against the tax agency. So super important to keep on this resolution. The amount is covered with 33 days year work up to 24 monthly payments. So it's quite huge. And in general terms, severance payments are capped to 180,000 euros a year in total. Okay. Okay, we finished the work-related exemptions, and now I'm going to briefly explain the company shares of stock options, which is similar to other countries. Here in Spain, it is tax-free the first 12,000 euros per year if they met the conditions. And the conditions are: the offer is made under the same conditions for all employees. The company must be Spanish or have a permanent establishment. And the shares must be held for at least a period of 3 years. Okay, and then the last exemption I'm gonna introduce is the 7P, because it's very famous also in the payslips, the 7P exemption. This is very tricky because nowadays the tax agency is chasing for checking if it's correct or not. What it refers? It refers when a Spanish company sent to work abroad to a foreign client. The salary earned abroad can be tax exempt, and there is a limit, which is 6,100 euros a year. As I said, this needs a study of a tax advisor because they must be proven that the client is foreigner and so on, so on. So we in payroll, once it's proof and confirmed, we will consider the discount in the payslip. And finally, the special tax regime for non-residents, which is commonly known as the Beckham Law benefit. These are for those that are eligible to pay less tax due to moving to Spain to work, and they possess this tax certificate, which allows them to be taxed based on 24 rates, any kind of incomes. And further to it, all incomes abroad doesn't need to be mentioned for the Spanish in the tax returns. Well, this is further to payroll, but it is a very attractive benefit in Spain. So this is to close my overview. And now I just want to mention very quickly 2 news releases from this year, which are not really involved in payroll, but more for HR and legal procedures. This is the mandatory digitalization of the clock-ins and clock-outs. It was mandatory, but from this year onwards, it must be recorded digitally. What it means to cope the potential labor audits, and also to justify that the working time is correctly recorded. And also because in our country, they are dealing with changing the annual, the working time, sorry. The working time is gonna move from 40 hours per week till 37.5 hours. This reduction is not yet obligatory, but it's gonna come in force. So you must be updated with this digitalization. And the final head-ups is to consider a requirement for disciplinary dismissals in Spain. Nowadays, it's essential to remember that the requirement to ensure the employee's right to a prior hearing. Without this prior hearing, maybe the dismissal disciplinary will be failed. So that's also an impact. I mean, because you must then reinstitute the worker in payroll. Okay,
Amazing.
and that's all my overview.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Emma. There is definitely a lot of rules. And as a lot of our viewers will already know, it's a very, very complex system. So to put things into sort of a real life perspective, I wanted to have a look at a quick case study. for a fictional company called Solosoft. Now they are a regional tech company. They've opened a new hub in Barcelona, and they've got 20 employees. So Emma, it'd be great if you could just share with us how you would resolve the case study, and any problems that they are facing, what you would suggest to different organisations that are maybe expanding in Spain, opening a new hub, how they could overcome those challenges.
Okay. Are you sharing the screen, right? Okay.
See it now?
Yes, I can see it.
Great, cool. So, like I said, Solosoft established a regional hub in Barcelona. They've got 20 staff, and some of those competitors have arose around the Seguridad Social, IRPF, and severance laws. So, some of the payroll challenges they are facing is incorrect IRPF withholding. So, employees weren't submitting annual family or tax declarations, which led to default high tax rates. They've had problems with their social security, so they were ignoring caps, which meant that high earners had contributions calculated on total gross instead of cap base. Final pay errors and inaccurate pro rata of extra pay. So Emma, can you just run us through those situations and how to resolve them, please?
Yeah, all right. I understand this is a very bad scenario in the overall, and it needs to really improve. So I believe a fair solution to avoid incorrect tax, incorrect withholding tax, is to collect the tax model 145 form complete and accurate, and then revising if the total annual incomes are correctly reflect as the gross, and then estimated again the percentage. And then I believe also that that there is a serious problem here with the contributions, because yeah, you cannot pay. I mean, nowadays, as I explained, the contribution system is capped to a top base. And further to it, there are new contributions like the solidarity contribution. So you must talk with the provider software and see if they can fix it, because the remittance cannot be done if they are not accurate according to the solidarity and the May also. Really, if it cannot be solved in the software properly, you must ask for help, because otherwise, if the Social Security can reject your calculations and you cannot pay it, and that won't be a really nice scenario, because if you don't pay in time, then you have to pay a surcharge and so on. So, and to avoid that, I will ensure that the software fully is compliant with the Social Security regulations, because it's super complex and you must focus in a good guarantee, the GDPR and so on. So because that is basic. And also final errors and dismiss employee. Yeah, this can be adjusted if you can go to the official website where the government fixes the severance payment. So you can check it over there. Or also, if you are insecure about the amount of the severance, you can also perhaps ask the lawyer who had the letter and discuss any amount discrepancy, because it must be really adjusted. And regarding the accurate, the prorate, okay, this is also in the collective agreement established, and it must be also set up in the software proper. So basically, you have to take all the concepts that the salaries that are fixed in the collective agreement, multiply per 2 because there are 2, and divide it in 12. Therefore, you will get the proper prorata for the 13 and the 14. And you must formulate it and make it as fixed. So automatize this function. Otherwise, you will be completely lost. And that's all I can help. I hope I give you some ideas. Don't know.
Thank you so much, Emma. So we're going to move on to the Q&A section of our Spanish session. So we've got some questions that people have sent us since we started announcing Global Pay Fest, and others that we've just sort of had lots of people asking over the years or over the months, that keep popping up for us. So they're definitely common problems that people are facing in Spain. So, Emma, can we offer just 12 salary payments instead of 14 in Spain?
Yeah, sure. That's pretty normal. Everybody does, mainly. But what I was explaining, also, you don't have to forget to split to reflect the 13 and the 14 amount in the properly in the payslip. Otherwise, the employee can claim. But it's normal. We do.
And what are the consequences of not using a letter agreement?
Oh, okay. Failing to follow the agreement conditions have significant impacts. Firstly, because the labor inspectorate may issue a fine, and also the employees might have the right to sue the company and ensure the labor rights are respected. This means that if you made some payments, but not what it is for reason in the collective agreement. So you end up paying further backdated payments. Also, you have to search for legal support and cost, and also pay the fines. So for 3 reasons, I wouldn't recommend it.
Sure. Okay. And how does sick leave reimbursement work for employers?
Well, that's a tricky one because our sickness are complicated. The reimbursement, in general, it's paid through the contribution system, so it's return, all right? However, the statutory sick leave, it's reimbursed when the employee is sick for further than 15 days. To remind you, there are there is a provision in the workers' statute that establishes from the first day to the third day, the 3 first day, no payment at all. From the 4th up to the 15th day, the allowance is based in 60% of the Social Security budget for the sickness, and fully paid by the company, so no benefit. From the 16th to the 20th, yes, it is Social Security responsibility, and who is in charge is the National Health Insurance. The allowance amount is the same than before, for the 15 days paid by the company, it's 16. And from the 21 days being sick up to 12 months, it remains being in charge of the National Health in Social Security, and the amount is increased to 75% of the total budget. So that's it.
Perfect. So in Spain, are meal vouchers and transport cards taxable?
Yes, as I explained, they can be exempted, but also depends on the amount you agree. So in general, the companies hardly establishes amounts bigger than the threshold I mentioned, which are 11 euros per day in case of meals, and in transport is an annual amount of 1,500 euros. So yeah, that are exempted there.
What would you say is the most overlooked payroll obligation in Spain?
All right. I would say that most commonly is not fulfilling the salaries established in the collective bargaining agreement and forgiving to pay the arrears from there. Or sometimes the companies, they don't like it because it's not by their convenience. When the law is published in force, maybe it's not in the finance for the company. So that's one typical. And but also there are others, like not having in place an equality plan, no transparency about the salaries in a company. It's quite often happen in Spain. And we also have other things because we have a lot of intricacies in all kind of processes. Even for training, it's supposed that the company make efforts to use the training contribution to promote campaigns of learning. But sometimes companies, they don't do that. So we have several.
So a few more questions. Do we need to register foreign employees with Spanish social security, even if they're only working temporarily in Spain?
If they are transferred due to this E1 model, they can be exempt. If they present this model in terms, it can cover the short, the temporary working time. But if not, yes, they must be registered. Otherwise, it's not fulfilling the law. Yeah.
Is it mandatory to apply salary increases in line with the collective bargaining agreement every year?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Yeah, of course. Is it mandatory to apply salary increases in line with the collective bargaining agreement every year?
Yes and no. Yes, if the salaries you agreed are exactly the same amounts that the collective agreement mentioned, you have to update it. But if you, in the employment contract, it said a negotiate salary higher than the salary expected in the collective agreement, and you said an item concept mentioning this is a voluntary payment, then you can use this to compensate and not increasing the salary.
And in a few of the conversations we've had so far today, we've learned that in quite a lot of countries, terminating an employee can be quite difficult. How are termination payments handled in Spain?
Well, they are challenging, actually, very challenging, because nowadays with the dismissal, you might need to give this prior hearing to the employee. So you really need to find a lawyer and to support also payroll, because for the letter and so on. In cases of redundancies, for sure, you need a lawyer to study the case and see if the redundancy is possible. And in case of unfair, to go to the court, you will need always to recur a lawyer. You can have some guidelines in our law, but in the end, it's a country that it's really need to specify things. So especially with the termination of contracts or so on. Yeah.
In Spain, is it okay to pay salary in different currencies other than euros?
Absolutely no. No.
Sure. So what about payslips? Are digital payslips allowed? Are they legally valid in Spain?
Well, digitally, yes. Well, you must create a PDF and you can share it in the computer. It's more secure rather than give a paper because no data protection at all. so So yeah, digitally, but in the end, it's personal thing that you must receive, and if you want to check it on, you must to provide it to a bank for a mortgage, for instance. You should have a document, digital document. Yeah.
So they can be provided in any format as long as that person has access to their payslip.
Yeah. Yeah, correct.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Emma.
Yeah.
We are coming towards the end of our Spain hour. All of these sessions are running by so quickly.
Yeah.
And they're just so full of information. So if you are watching and you're either bringing in a Spanish payroll or expanding into Spain, or if you're already managing a Spanish payroll and just want to brush up on your knowledge or upskill or share it with your team members, all of the sessions will be available recorded after the full 24 hours is finished. So please do catch up at your own convenience with any of the sessions. Emma, I want to say a massive thank you to you for joining us. You've done an absolutely perfect job of walking us through the intricacies of Spanish payroll. I've heard through years and years of being in the industry that Spanish payroll is very complex, and it's clear from what you said today that it's very rich in detail. Those sort of sectoral agreements, extra salary payments, compliance with working hour regulations, all make it very intricate. So thank you again. Thank you so much for making it so understandable, for breaking it down, and for running through that case study with us as well to make things a little bit more relatable to a real life scenario. For our audience, thank you so much for staying with us. If you've been here since the beginning, well done. If you're just joining us or have just popped along for the Spanish session, then I really hope that Emma's breakdown has helped you feel a little bit more confident in navigating a Spanish payroll or supporting your teams with a Spanish payroll and being a bit more effective with your operations. So next we will head to Ireland, another complex payroll region, and we'll have a look at more regional regulations, best practices, and we'll be joined by the wonderful Helen Dooley at CR Payroll. But before we go, Emma, is there anything you would like to add?
Okay, thank you for your your good words towards me. Yeah, it was challenging because I haven't had much time, but I'm very happy to assist and it's a privilege for me to attend this meeting. And yeah, I want to just mention 5 key points to remember to produce best practices for Spanish payroll. First one is master the rules. You have to really deeply knowledge the employment law and the collective bargaining agreement to ensure you are covered. Secondly, really, you must be punctual with the fillings. You cannot leave it for later. Register employees and submitting remittances as well as withholding tax on time prevent penalties and increase expenses, as I explained. Thirdly, handle tax rates accurately. So you must be sure that all the personal circumstances are correct, and also as much as possible to forecast the total earnings of the financial year. 4 point, create comprehensive payslips. We should care about explaining things in a proper way to make things easier for everyone. And the last one, to be updated to all the new regulations and changes and so on. You must be in tune for newsletters, legal newsletters, and helping globally or whatever and in the country, because it's a really life matter, the Spanish law. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, I think to ensure you're fully compliant and to avoid any potential issues, as with any other region, I think it's so important to seek guidance from legal professionals or payroll professionals who are experts and experienced in the Spanish payroll regulations. Emma, I just want to say thank you again. And anytime I have a question about Spanish payroll, I know exactly who to call.
Please.
Are amazing.
Count on me.
So thank you again, everyone, for joining us. I'll be back in a couple of hours. But for now, stay tuned. My colleague Tom Barrett is taking over, and seeing Helen in Ireland. Adios.
Bye-bye.